Hey you guys, hopefully you are all doing well. It's Adrian Hunter from over here at PipedreamHookah, and today I actually have a tobacco review for you guys. If you actually looked at the thumbnail or title before you clicked the video, you'll know it's going to be on this Haze Bananarama. But before we get into the actual tobacco review itself, I figured I'd give you guys some really quick updates, try to keep it under 30 seconds, just some stuff I think you guys should know. Firstly, I actually have a new show starting. It's going to be a weekly show, and the first one comes out Friday, and it's going to be called The Pipeline. I'm not going to get into too many details about what that show is going to be about, but I'll let you imagine for yourselves. It comes out in 2 days, so it shouldn't be too long. And then if you haven't yet, I would definitely recommend going to subscribe to Zach from over at Strictly Shisha. He has really upped his production lately. He normally did like a video a week, maybe a video every 2 weeks, because as a lot of you probably know who are already subbed to him, he actually owns his own ice cream shop in Georgia called What's the Scoop, I think is what it's called, or Where's the Scoop, one of the two. I'm in Michigan, so I've never had the chance to go there. But he's trying to hit 10K subs right now, because there's a few things that YouTube will start to let you do when you hit that threshold. So I would definitely recommend going to give him a sub, because he's been pumping out an insane amount of content, and his content is always good. If you already follow Zach, you probably subscribe, so I guess I'm telling that to the like 2 or 3 of you who might subscribe to me, but not Zach from Strictly Shisha. Oh, and I wanted to quickly apologize for the 2-week hiatus I was just on. Between work and a lot of big reviews I had coming up, I just decided to not drop anything without doing the proper amount of production to it. I have a few videos getting ready to come out for you guys. They're kind of bigger productions, just some stuff that took a little bit more homework, had to cut a little bit more B-roll. That's actually why I'm here doing this review for you guys. This flavor's been out for a while, this Haze Bananarama, but I figured I haven't gone over it yet. I've only got one Haze review on the channel, so we should just go ahead and do the Haze Bananarama review for you guys. And for those of you who have seen my reviews before, they'll like to start with the packing method and the cut and the color and the consistency of the tobacco. I'm going to do that for this video, but another thing I've been thinking about is how much time that section of the video takes out of every tobacco review I do. And I do a lot of tobacco reviews. So I figured, and if you have thoughts on this, maybe you can leave them down in the comments below, but I figured that maybe I could do a packing video for every different type of tobacco, and maybe even multiple different videos if that tobacco can be packed in a number of ways, like Haze can. For those of you who don't know, you can actually pack Haze almost however you want. It's going to perform pretty well. But today it's just going to be par for the course. We're going to do it like we normally do. So before we get into all of our favorite shit like the scent, the flavor, and the clouds that this stuff can produce, we're going to have to move over to some B-roll really quick so I can show you guys exactly how this stuff looks when you crack open the can, and how we're going to pack it today, as well as what setup we'll be using, which you can probably see most of right here except for the bowl. Alright, for any of you guys who aren't familiar with Haze tobacco, the 250-gram packages come in these really nice tin containers, which are nice for multiple reasons. One of them being that you can actually stack them one on top of each other. I didn't prepare an image for that, unfortunately, but if you want to see how that works, I'll leave a link in the description on another Haze review I did that showcases that off a little bit. But beyond the packaging, we get in here and we see that Haze is actually going to be a nice golden brown, kind of a blonde color. Now, I will say that my camera is messing up the image a little bit. The light that I'm using is a little bit too amber, unfortunately, so it's skewing the color just a little bit. But just know that this is going to be a nice golden blonde color, and the cut's going to be pretty choppy, honestly. I think this cut's actually a bit of a mess. It's not going to be a problem. Haze performs pretty well. You guys will see that in just a moment. But that's just something to be ready for. Another little quick note before we get into how we're going to pack the stuff. This is a tin container. And the bag that Haze comes in, that actually goes inside of the tin container, is not resealable. It's pretty flimsy and I don't like using it. I would recommend using it anyway, because unless you go through your 250s of tobacco insanely fast like I do, I'm talking like under 2 weeks, you're going to run into this issue where the moisture from your tobacco, especially with Haze, as you can see, it's super wet, very nice and juicy. They are going to be using a mixture of glycerin and honey as far as the binding agent goes for this tobacco, so it's going to be very, very wet. And obviously the way this moisture is going to react with the tin or whatever they're using to make the can, it is not aluminum. I can tell you firsthand, I've experienced these cans rusting. You don't want to mess with that, because then your tobacco can get dangerous to smoke, or at the very least it's going to taste pretty bad. But moving on to packing the bowl, we're going to need to get all of our stuff to pack the bowl, and I guess the most important thing here would be picking out a bowl. And I think the bowl that we're going to be going with today is actually going to be a really old school. I think this is going to be the first or second generation of the Alpaca Apache mediums, and it's going to be in this really nice pink lemonade color. But yeah, let's go ahead and start packing the bowl. Now, like I said before, you can actually pack haze in a number of ways. It's pretty tolerant to how you want to pack it. The way we're going to pack it today is we're going to go ahead and make sure to mix the tobacco up so the moisture's all nice and spread throughout the tobacco. And then I like to use my hands because haze, like alfalfa, is kind of a clumpy tobacco and it doesn't want to break apart really easily. So we're going to go ahead and grab the tobacco and we're going to do our best to fluff it around the rim just outside of the spire. Now, it's not a big deal if it doesn't come apart very easily. That's not really going to be a problem. Like I said, haze performs pretty well even under the worst conditions. But just try to break it apart as much as you can on the first pass. We're going to readjust with the poker as soon as we're done. And like I said, as soon as you're done packing it around, you can go ahead and grab your poker, oyster fork, toothpick. You can even use your fingers if you want. But what you really want to do is kind of level out the tobacco because we've just packed it to just above the rim is where I like to pack it. The reason I'm not specifying too much is because you can kind of do it however you want as long as it's not too far below the rim because haze is a pretty heat resistant tobacco. We're going to go ahead and move the leaves around a little bit, just try to get it as consistent as possible so it's flush with the rim. And then once we're done there and the spire is nice and clear, we're just going to go ahead and foil our bowl. As usual, we're going to be using one layer of heavy duty foil. We're going to go shiny side down over the bowl. And we're just going to do a 3-ring hole pattern as usual for a bowl like this. I will say that if you want to use an HMD like the Lotus or the new Phoenix, I would actually recommend packing this stuff to just above the rim so you can get a little bit more contact because like I said, haze is actually super heat resistant. Now that we've packed our bowl, just take a really quick look at the setup we'll actually be smoking on today. As you can see, I've got the Alchemist Initiate. I kind of reset it so that little bell that's normally down here, I put it up here because the gentleman Rob from over at PipedreamHookah, he was actually just on the AM Hookah podcast last week, or I guess it was this Monday, so just a couple days ago, so I'll leave a link to that in the description if you're interested. But he mentioned that putting this bell up at the top might help with the restriction issues that people are finding in the Initiate. I'm going to say that I don't think the restriction is an issue. I think that a little bit of restriction on a pipe is a good thing, but I've done it this way. I'm going to test a little bit, but it very well may take a little bit of the restriction off. I'm not exactly sure yet. But yeah, Alchemist Initiate, I've got the Thunder Dart V2 hose with the Thunder mid-stylus handle on it, kind of a little mod that I've done. And up on top, you've already seen the bowl, but I've got 3, what are those going to be, charcoal flare flats. And you already know what the pack looks like and what the bowl looks like. Oh, the grommet's blue. Oh, and I'm using a B2 mouth tip for anyone interested. But now that that long-winded introduction / packing method garbage is over with, let's go ahead and get into the tobacco itself. And as usual, we're going to start by seeing how it smells. There's more than bananas in here. I'm actually having trouble pulling any banana out. But it's definitely in there, it's just in the background. And looking at the can, I don't know if this is going to translate very well, but you see those? Those are going to be like little muffins. So seeing those and smelling it, I think what I'm picking up on is some type of a banana cakey type of a dessert. What comes to mind is banana bread. And the more that I think about banana bread and smell this, the more I think I'm picking up on banana bread. So as far as the scent goes, I'm going to go with some type of a banana bread / I don't think banana muffins are a thing. It's probably just banana bread in the shape of muffins here on the container. But I'm sure we'll be able to figure out what the flavor profile is more when we get to the flavor part of the video. Moving up next, let's go ahead and take a look at some of them clouds. Alright, so as you guys can see, haze is going to have no problem producing those giant, full-body dent clouds that we all love in our hookah sessions. Now, I'm going to say that if you're familiar with haze, this is probably no secret to you. It's pretty much common knowledge by this point that haze is known for producing good clouds. I'm not exactly sure why that is, but if I had to take a wild guess, I'd say that that super wet mixture of honey and glycerin is probably what's causing clouds like this to be produced. Now, the clouds are all good and well, but let's get to the most important thing when we're critically analyzing any shisha tobacco, and that's going to be the flavor profile. Now, I am going to say that I haven't done it for the past few videos because they were the Azure First Impression series, and I didn't want to be too critical. And then there was the Alfakr series, but those tend to be quicker too. But we are going to analyze this on both the inhale and the exhale because I do find that the flavor profiles on the inhale and exhale of any given shisha tobacco tend to differ just a little bit. Let's start with the inhale. Okay, this might sound weird, but first of all, let's get this out of the way. As far as the flavor profile on the inhale goes, this tobacco does an awesome job of translating its scent to the actual flavor profile of the tobacco itself. Now, the first thing that hits me isn't really the taste, it's like this feeling. It's almost like you know how when you eat something like a zucchini bread or some type of a cake, or you know, whatever type of a sweet, cakey, kind of a fatty food you're eating, a lot of people kind of think of that as like comfort food. And that's what I'm getting on the inhale of this tobacco. It's kind of this really nice, almost bready, semi-sweet, kind of a, I don't know how to explain it, it's just a very comforting flavor. I hope that makes any amount of sense at all. As far as any banana notes, I'm not really picking up very many banana notes on the inhale. There might be some at the very back end, but what you're really getting in the forefront of the flavor, to be more specific than just saying, oh, this flavor is comforting, I would say that you're getting some cinnamon, maybe some nutmeg, and this overall kind of a sweet breaded flavor that you would get with something like a banana bread. Now I'm going to say that I've got a decent amount of heat packed onto this stuff, and there's no burnt flavor at all, which is really nice. And it's also got this really nice full feeling when you inhale. Like the clouds almost feel airy. And that's not really part of the flavor profile, but I think that's important to talk about when we are discussing the flavor profile on this tobacco. But before I can give it an overall opinion, let's go ahead and check out what the exhale tastes like. Okay, so the flavor profile on the exhale remains mostly unchanged, actually. I know I said that a lot of shisha tobaccos tend to differ, but this is pretty consistent throughout the inhale and the exhale. I will say that you might pick up a little bit more cinnamon on the exhale than you do on the inhale, but that's something that I've noticed over smoking. I've probably had almost a kilo of this stuff since I started smoking hookah. It's one of my favorites that I can get in lounges around here, so I do tend to gravitate to this over some of the other stuff that's widely available in my area. But yeah, taking that into account, you know, the flavor profile on the exhale as well as the inhale, I'm gonna have to say that there's not a whole lot of banana going on in this flavor. That said, I am picking up this banana feeling, if that makes sense, and I think that's just because I've had banana bread at any point in my life. If you've ever had banana bread, you know they put bananas in it, so you attribute that flavor to bananas. But as far as like an actual banana note, I'm not really picking up on any. It feels like I am, but I think that might just be a subconscious thing because banana's right in the name. What I would expect is a really nice cinnamony, nutmeggy, kind of a bready, sweet flavor that's very comforting on both the inhale and the exhale. I know I'm using that word a lot, I hope it makes sense, but like it really is kind of striking a note with me on that front, so I'm hoping it translates to you guys in any way at all. A few other quick notes about this flavor before I go ahead and rate it on the 10 scale like I used to, but today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. I don't know if any of you guys are Nintendo fans. I'm a huge Nintendo fan, and I watched this YouTuber, his name's Arlo, and he reviews Nintendo games as well as talks about Nintendo stuff. And he uses a 7 scale, and I think it does a much better job at letting people know, hey, this is good, or hey, this is bad, because like the difference between a 5, 6, and 7 is a lot more personified and easy to understand than the difference between like a 6.5 and a 7, or a 7.5 and an 8. That seems kind of vague to me, so I think I'm going to switch over to that 7-point scale. Let me know what you guys think about it. But before I do grade it on that new 7-point scale, a few other notes about this tobacco. It's going to last for a pretty long time. With the extremely wet mixture of honey and glycerin that they have in there, it's going to actually evaporate for a decent amount of time. I'm expecting 2 rounds of coals on this Alpaca Apache medium with the 1 layer of HD foil. There isn't an insane amount of tobacco packed in here, maybe 20 grams at the most. And I think it's going to smoke pretty well for around 2, maybe 2.5 hours if I want to extend it that long. And as far as how long it holds the flavor profile for, you're going to start to see it die down around the hour and a half, hour and 45 minute mark, and it's just going to kind of gradually decline until you get that burnt flavor, and that's when you know the bowl is going to be done, because you're going to get clouds through. You can probably get clouds out of this stuff for like 3 hours, but I'm going to say that it's probably not worth it to smoke it anymore after you hit that like 2.5 hour mark. That's when I'd end the session with this stuff. Now, with all of that in mind, taking into consideration the flavor, the scent, the clouds, heat resistance, how long it lasts for, even the packaging and stuff, I'm going to go ahead and rate this flavor on the 7 scale for you guys. I'm going to rate it at a solid 5 out of 7. Now the reason I'm going to give it a 5 out of 7 is kind of weird because that sounds like it might be low, because I actually really like this flavor, but I will say that I was expecting a banana flavor from this, especially since there's like bananas all over the can and it's called Bananarama, but really it's more of a banana bread flavor, emphasis on the bread, like a sweet bread. So it's kind of hard to give it points for flavor accuracy, although maybe it is accurate because they are showing some of those like banana bread muffin looking things, but I'm not really sure. I was hoping for more of a banana flavor when I picked this stuff up, but it isn't, so it's going to lose a little bit of point value for that. But other than that, it honestly performs very well. It's going to perform as well as any haze flavor you pick up. It's going to give you those nice, awesome clouds, good flavor for a nice long time. It smells great, and it's pretty easy to pack, although another reason it's not going to bump up into that 6 range is because of the cut. It's very hard to work with. The only saving grace as far as the cut goes is that the tobacco is extremely resilient, so it's kind of okay that it's a little more difficult to work with, although I would definitely say I'd like to see a more consistent cut from haze. I don't know if I mentioned this when I was talking about the cut of the tobacco, but there's also a decent amount of, they're not even stems, they look like twigs. So keep that in mind as well. But yeah, all of that said, that's just going to about wrap up this video for you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any comments, questions, criticisms, concerns, leave them down in the comments as always. And hey, maybe if you guys want to pick this stuff up, you guys know who I work with, you guys know who I endorse. I'd head over to 5 Star Hookah to pick this stuff up. They've got pretty decent shipping time, great customer service, but most of all they have an insane variety of different hookah products for you guys to choose from. So I definitely recommend going to give them a look and seeing maybe if you want to pick this stuff up, maybe if you don't, there's some other stuff you might like on that site. And if you want to get 15% off your entire 5 Star Hookah order, for those of you who don't already know, use my promo code. That's going to be PIPED15, PIPED15. That'll get you 15% off your entire 5 Star Hookah order, excluding what's already on sale. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you Friday for the first video in the Pipeline series of videos that I'll be putting out. And as always, happy smoking.